Hi, everybody. Today is the 5th of February. Can you believe? We're now in the month of February. I know the month of February is a short month. And yeah, so it's not going to be like January. Welcome to the African Queen Mo Show. We come to you from from the beautiful city of Nairobi. How are you guys doing? I sent some of you guys the link. Those of you who did not receive the link, just know that you can get on to StreamYard, and there's a link actually in this show. If you go to the show, you actually see the link there, and you can join us in the comment section. Let me know that you're there. Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing okay. Yeah, we're getting to the end of the week, so today we're going to be talking about aid fatigue. Yes, USAID is tired. They are tired. Oh, they're tired. I hope that you can hear me clearly. I actually want to make sure, if you can't hear me, please tell me in the comment section that you're having a difficult time hearing me. Meanwhile, I'll also try and see if I can put on my sound here and try and see maybe if I can watch myself a little bit and hear whether I'm hearing myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, today is we're going to be talking about aid fatigue. I know a little bit about aid fatigue because I worked in the aid sector for a long time. For like most of my career, has been working with the likes of USAID and people like those. So I just know, I just understand. Those are my colleagues. I can understand that they're a little bit jittery about losing their jobs. Many people are, going to be losing their jobs, guys. I don't know why I keep getting notifications. Do you guys get notifications? Yeah, let me put them on silent. From TikTok. I'm also on TikTok and it irritates me to death because they keep getting notifications all the time. But yeah, once one more comes in, yeah, there it goes. I'm gonna put it on silent. It doesn't allow me though. But anyway, guys, yeah, I think I'm just gonna put it on airplane mode. Do not disturb. Yep. So these are my colleagues in the aid sector, and I know many of them are very, very concerned about their jobs and their projects and the beneficiaries of these projects. However, one of the things that we are taught when we're doing development kind of work is that one should always plan your exit strategy. One should have an exit strategy. And whenever we used to write these proposals and evaluation plans and things like that, we always write this. There's always this section that says exit strategy. Nobody ever really takes it seriously. Apart from you're going to exit maybe from the program, you're going to hope that everything is going to go okay and that you're going to complete the program. But there's some other unintended and unplanned events that can happen. Like a country can go to war, and that's beyond your, that's beyond your capacity. That's beyond you. Okay. Or maybe you can fall ill. You can fall ill, the person, maybe maybe the project managers can fall ill and no longer continue. Or a catastrophic event can happen, like what has actually happened now. And so people should be aware that exit strategies are there to be implemented. I can see Susan there in the background, but I want to invite her to the show, add her to the stage, and then also share with you a few things and allow her to first say hello to you. Karibu, Susan.
Yeah, greetings everybody. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to your comments and for a vibrant discussion.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, guys, come on, let's participate together. We can see that you're there. So, Susan, today we're talking about aid, and we're talking about the fact that there's this no work order from Trump, and he's telling people that's enough. He has had it. He has had enough. And people are going to be going home, and this is a situation here in Kenya. Let me share with you a video from Kenya, so that we can talk about that and many other things here. Um, I'm still learning this thing, and I tell you what, it's a bit complicated when you're going live. It's easier when you're some Kenyans working. Yes, there we go.
Agony of thousands of workers of organizations that have been hit hard by the stop work order by the US government, an order that has also left thousands of beneficiaries of critical programs funded by the US government in uncertainty. Many affected non-governmental organizations have been forced to send workers on compulsory unpaid leave, while others have opted to close shop entirely. And as Safin Achengoma reports, health stakeholders are emphasizing the need for domestic health financing to break the dependency on donor funding for critical programs.
Shock and uncertainty has gripped the health sector as the realities of the U.S. funding freeze sinks. The stop work order signed by U.S. President Donald Trump on his first day back in office temporarily suspended all U.S. foreign assistance programs for 90 days, pending reviews to determine whether they are aligned with his policy goals. A directive that has left many local government and non-governmental organizations that run programs supported by the U.S. cash-strapped and struggling to stay afloat. Kisii County government, for instance, has suspended all U.S.-funded activities and sent over 500 workers home with the January 2025 salaries only. The letter by the county director of public health and sanitation directed the workers to hand over and wait for further guidance.
Zile hospitali ambazo hawa wafanyikazi walikuwa wanafanya kazi, tumefanya mipango ya kuwatuma wafanyikazi wengine pale. Ndiyo sababu shughuli zote za kiafya sisiweze kuharibika kwa vyovyote pile.
Homa Bay County government has also asked staff of the affected programs to hand over as they implement the order. In Kisumu County, HIV care and treatment services has been integrated with routine healthcare services in all level 2 and level 3 facilities. The county is phasing out standalone HIV comprehensive care centers. USAID has also announced that all workers under the Fahari ya Jamii project proceed on compulsory 3-month unpaid leave effective 1st of February 2025. The directive affects over 700 personnel operating under the program run through the University of Nairobi in Kajiado and Nairobi counties. The 4.2 billion shillings project, which was in its 4th year, was scheduled to end in May next year. Over 72,000 patients who were on ARVs have been adversely affected with an abrupt closure of over 150 clinics, which were run in collaboration with the county governments. The impact goes beyond the health sector, as Faith Ndungu, the advocacy manager at the Health NGOs Network, explains.
The magnitude from the health sector, we can say we are feeling it more because these are lives, these are people. But also other sectors, agriculture, research, even youth empowerment. Many of the fellowships which are there to strengthen and build the capacity of many different people is actually affected as we speak.
She insists that the discussion on donor transition plans is pertinent to avoid such knee-jerk disruptions.
When the abrupt decision has been made, we are talking of 1 million plus people living with HIV. We are talking of how many children. So at least the humane way to go about it is to have a conversation with the countries and tell them that in the next 5 years, in the next 3 months, we are going to be changing strategy. We are going to be transiting from your country. How prepared are you?
Considering the shrinking donor funding space, she emphasizes the need for domestic health financing to ensure sustainability.
The silver lining in a sad situation is that it's our wake-up call. It's our wake-up call to ask ourselves, when we have the LM 2019 declaration, why haven't we invested in health as was envisioned in that document by our leaders? When we fund our healthcare more, then we're in more control. If a donor for one reason or another may not honor their commitment, we will not be in a crisis.
Safin Achengoma, Citizen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Citizen TV. Yup. And this is where we are in Kenya. So many people losing their jobs, patients without ARV drugs, all of a sudden. Like the issue is how quickly it happened. Yeah. And also the fact that it also goes beyond like we heard, it goes beyond the health sector. So, Susan, do you have anything to say about that? Or anybody else can join us also in the comment section, please, or even come into the studio.
Yeah, it's really it was done so suddenly. I was listening to the CS of Health, and she said from December last year they started looking for alternative funding. I think they must have anticipated a change with Trump there. As we discussed in previous shows, the Republicans have a very different approach to foreign aid, and they're a bit hands-off. And so in her in that interview, she said that Kenya has been looking for alternative sources support for the at least for the health programs, because she's the CS of health. And they also talked about renegotiating with Treasury to provide funds, so at least there can be a smooth transition. Another doctor also said, apparently with our HIV program, the prescription policy or culture is to provide ARVs in batches of 3 months. So he was saying that they have enough ARVs for a 6-month period, and then after that there's a challenge. So the Ministry of Health has to really speed up and really negotiate so there's no gap. So what else is affected by this is the other health programs, apart from the HIV, the Pepfar. There are other programs that are supported by the US through USAID, and one is the President's Malaria Initiative. The other one, they support tuberculosis. The other one is maternal and child health. Another one is nutrition. So Pepfar was they moved the secretary in charge of health. No, the secretary of the what's his name? There's a new secretary of state. Yeah, the secretary of state. They moved him. I mean, they applied, and he gave a waiver for on HIV/AIDS, Pepfar, and it's a very controlled waiver. It's on particular things, and the waiver, if I may read, just covers life-saving HIV care and treatment. That includes ARVs, testing, counseling, prevention, treatment of opportunistic infections, including TB, lab services, procurement, supply chain for medicines, commodities, healthcare workers, and providing services, and also prevention of mother-to-child transmissions. So those are and then pre-exposure prophylaxis for pregnant and breastfeeding women. So it's a very, they have specified what they're covering, and those programs are supposed to continue under the USAID. That the funds will be provided, but they're not allowing new cases. So the rest of what is not covered, the implications and what is not included under Pepfar HIV is cervical cancer screening, prophylaxis, pre-exposure prophylaxis for women except pregnant or breastfeeding mothers, services for orphans and vulnerable children. Under the Presidential Malaria Initiative, they're not getting anything. So the bed nets, the indoor residual spraying, seasonal malaria chemo prevention is not there. Intermittent preventative treatment in pregnancy, and then caregivers are not getting anything. And then there's also a remark there that apparently malaria has returned to the US. And so they'll be in the US, they'll be supported, but not, but they're also affected, by the way. They're also affected because the funding was cut. And then in TB, diagnosis of TB and drug-resistant TB, provision of life-saving medicines, that's not covered also. For polio, identification of polio cases, vaccine and vaccination of children is also not covered. Under maternal and child health care, emergency obstetric care, pre and antenatal care, essential newborn care, skilled birth attendants not covered. Family
Really? Now,
planning,
that is a huge risk to women in this country. Huge, you know? But
yeah,
on the other hand, we are very donor dependent. Why? Here, continue, Susan. I just want you to
yeah,
quickly continue because I've got so many things to show. So
yeah.
we can
I was
continue
just
the chat
pointing out,
as we, yeah.
yeah,
But it's
I was
crazy when I
pointing,
hear those things that are missed out. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, malaria bed net spraying, residual spraying. Yeah.
yeah. Family
But
planning, contraception, birth, birth spacing counseling, prevention and repair of obstetric fistula linkage to maternal health services, that's not covered. And nutrition education, nutrition during pregnancy, exclusive breastfeeding, micronutrient supplementation, not covered. Outbreak investigations, halting investigations of and response to current outbreaks. We know Ebola, we know Marburg, Mpox, bird flu, and now you can hear malaria in the US. So these are the areas that are not covered. So they've given this 90-day period where they're really scrutinizing to see, what should be covered and what should not. So the risk is that some programs will be completely discontinued, or they'll be adjusted to exclude the elements that they're not comfortable with. And there's an overlap between this and what we're calling the woke ideology, the woke ideology stuff, and gender issues. Yeah.
LGBTQ.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and gender issues. Yeah. Because I was just checking and seeing that in some HIV treatments, or the under HIV, the high risk people are female sexual workers, men who sleep with men, and transgender. Apparently, those are the three high risk groups in the
Why don't
you
they
know
include married women in that?
no
Married
no
people.
I'm saying the high risk groups, the high risk.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
but from what I
exclude the
saw
others.
in studies where they show
Mhm.
that married people are actually highest at risk for HIV/AIDS. Yeah.
Okay, now, yeah, because of
Married
change in
couples.
behavior, perhaps. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe
And
because
secrecy.
of a change in behavior. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So that
Okay, so
some of
thank you,
the stuff.
Susan. Yeah, thank you. Allow me just to now continue and show you guys. Thank you so, so much, Susan. That's really helpful. It's good to know what's included, what's excluded, and basically it brings to question this, guys. Why is it that African countries are so super dependent on aid for their healthcare programs? To me, that's a security issue. If you cannot keep your people healthy, if you cannot, allocate tax monies to health, then what are you doing as a government? Really, it's just disappointing. So let me show you guys something that I also saw that's happening in in Zimbabwe. Now let's look at Zimbabwe, okay?
We're not seeing anything. Are you showing?
Oh yes, I am. I am showing
No,
Susan.
we
Oh,
can't see anything.
it's not actually showing.
No,
Oh, thank you so much for
no.
letting me know. Okay, okay, let me copy that link then and try to show it to you. Okay, let me put it up here and hope that it will come up, yeah? Sometimes you guys, when it's difficult to show the screen sometimes, especially when you're moving between apps. Let's say you're moving between TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. It can be quite complicated. But anyway, basically what they're saying is that in Zimbabwe, the government is also, yeah, okay. I think we should be able to show this one. TikTok. Okay, let me try and share my screen. It's better to hear it from the horse's mouth, from themselves. I like to hear it from themselves. Yeah, there we go. I think now you'll be able to hear. Okay, wait. Come on, wait. Okay.
Has got funding. So the United States Embassy
Can
has
you
got
hear?
funding which they provide to Zimbabwe to the tune of almost 300 million US dollars. That is on top of all the people that go on scholarships and all the people that they're helping who are Zimbabweans. So President Trump has stopped funding for 90 days. So yesterday I said 60 days. So it's actually 90 days. And no money is going to be dispersed. No new money is going to be dispersed. And what has happened yesterday is a massacre. 17,000 Zimbabweans work in the NGO sector, which is about 1% of the working population of Zimbabwe. So most of these employees have been told to go home, their salaries have been stopped, and the benefits have been taken away. So if you were driving a car, if you were having a phone from the company, they've taken it away. From the NGO, they've taken it away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hope you heard that. Yes. Hello, Tony Africa. Welcome to the show. Yes, we are fine. Thank you very much. And yeah, we want to ask you guys to invite your friends to come to the show. And thank you so much for, joining us. You're welcome to join us also in the studio. So those are the kinds of, stories that we're hearing about this issue. And, we are in a dilemma, a sort of dilemma. Because you see, according to Elon Musk, he actually terms the USAID a criminal organization that is beyond repair. Okay, and he says that the organization will be shut down. Okay, and the reasons why he feels that it should be shut down is because there's speculation over the spending in the past. There was an investigation. Musk did not provide any evidence to support his claims, though, but there was apparently some sort of investigation. But also, you need to understand that he also called USAID a bowl of worms. He actually called it a bowl of worms. Okay. And when he says a bowl of worms, what does he actually mean? He's actually criticizing it. The arguments against it are bureaucracy and inefficiency. Because it's a large government agency, it's been criticized for being slow in decision making and wasteful with a lot of red tape. There's political influence. Some people have argued that USAID is used as a tool for advancing US geopolitical interests rather than purely humanitarian aid. Okay, so that's political influence. Then there's also the issue of corruption and mismanagement. There is cases where USAID funds have been purportedly misused and ended up in the wrong hands due to lack of adequate oversight, okay, and the lack of transparency. And I don't think that this is anything new. A lot of people have actually criticized USAID, and generally not just USAID, but aid in itself. The arguments, though, that USAID is effective, though, they're saying that it has contributed to the successes in the public health sector, like HIV programs, Pepfar, malaria reduction. They're talking about saving millions of lives. And even those figures of millions of lives have been disputed by some people because they say that these are just figures that are provided to help people keep their jobs, basically, or to, give them justification for being on board. And then there's some others who talk about disaster relief and development, that they provide life-saving aid in emergencies, and they support economic growth for poorer countries. They also talk about economic benefits. And they say that by supporting economic growth abroad, USAID can create new markets and strengthen international trade. So the benefits to the US, okay, is about creating new markets and benefiting the US. So the question is, if it's about benefiting new markets, benefiting the US with new markets, what does it really mean? Does it mean that, USAID is actually supposed to be an aid organization, non-profit organization? So what are they talking about new markets for? What is that all about? It looks like it could be conflict of interest in that area. Again, there's also the issue of exit strategies. Like I started off this show saying that every program has to consider an exit strategy. It could exit either before it completes or while it's still, either before it completes or when it completes. So there's the idea of, people have this sense of, they have this sense of entitlement to aid. We have a sense of entitlement to aid, and it's all over the world. Yeah, this issue is actually going all over the world. Now, if you look at, I want to show you some other. I'm going to present to you some other slides or some shows here. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I already showed you that. Here is a profile of USAID on X. What do you see? This account does not exist. The account is gone. And we're not laughing at USAID, but it's not there anymore. It's not there, guys. It's not there. And this is kind of like a questionable thing, because is this the right use of, of AI? The risk that you could actually lose your entire website, you can lose your job, and you can lose your website and actually become invisible to the whole world. Yeah, what about, their funding and stuff? I mean, what kind of risks are we really exposing ourselves to when we put our businesses online? Yeah, somebody can decide that we are irrelevant and decide that we're not going to be shown anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yes.
that's just basically it. And let's just see. Okay, Susan, you wanted to
Yeah.
say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that point. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
even if you go to Google and you
Mm-hmm.
check information, and then it takes you to USAID, it tells
Mm-hmm.
you about the notice that as of
Yes.
Friday, there's a
Yes.
notice that's appearing. So if you go and want to check for further information, you get stuck, and it says there's a notice that is showing there. I was listening to the Secretary of State
Mm-hmm.
and some of the comments, because he was being interviewed, and he
Mm-hmm.
said that some of the problems they have, and you mentioned some of them with USAID, is that they seem to be operating autonomously, and some of their projects are contrary to the national interest of the Americans, and so
Mm-hmm.
they are vetting them. And he said also that they're very arrogant. They don't answer to Congress. Uh, Congress will ask
Yeah, they're
them
operating
to,
independently, autonomously. Yeah,
yes,
true. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
I've heard about that.
they get the funding through Congress allocations. It's Congress that allocates money to USAID.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when they don't report back, I think the people they've noticed there's some arrogance. They don't want to be accountable. They don't answer any questions. That's what he was saying. I'm just telling you, reporting what he said, and he said it was sort of out of control. And what they did notice is that some of the things they're supporting, some of the things that are being funded by U.S. Tax payers' money, are things that are contrary to the national interest, and that's why they decided just to put this stop. Because apparently
Mm-hmm.
Congress, according to him, Congress was also dissatisfied with the way USAID was operating. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's one argument, and then there's the flip side, of course, because of the many millions of people who are affected by all the programs that they support. And they did,
Mm-hmm.
actually, globally, the US provided 42% of the funding, of humanitarian funding. It's
Mm-hmm.
in 2024, the UN tracker said that US provided 42% of humanitarian aid. So you can imagine the sudden switch off for some nations. And what
Yeah.
is interesting also about those statistics, and when Trump is saying about spending and wastage and all that, Actually, the US ranks at number 26 in terms of how much of their gross national income they give. They give about, in 2023, they gave about 0.24%. And Norway, which is a much smaller economy, gave 1.09%. And the other nations, which are giving more of their a larger percentage of their gross national income. So that notwithstanding, there's they're not, you know, in terms of when you do it in terms of what percentage of their gross national income they're giving, they don't rank the highest, although the money they do give is the most because they're such a large economy.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It just depends on the economy, how large it is and what proportion of the economy they're giving in terms of aid. Yeah, that's true. Okay, but what's also very worrying is that apart from US aid, that the US is kind of basically exiting aid, is exiting US aid. And they're also exiting WHO. They've already exited WHO. Okay. And then there's another country that is now reported to have exited. So Argentina is following Trump's lead and withdrawing also from WHO. Okay. And they're saying that the reason is the president. Argentina followed in the footsteps of Donald Trump by dramatically announcing it will pull out of WHO. Okay. And basically, Mr. Adoni said, the president Javier, I don't even know how to pronounce it anyway. His decision was based on deep differences, what he calls deep differences regarding health management, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. I think, I'm a little bit worried that this particular situation, USAID is going to escalate and it's going to include and involve more donors. Yeah, more donors. We call them donors. Yeah, more international organizations. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot. I think everybody should be on alert right now because the world is changing. And also, what is interesting though is that the reactions of Africans and Asians that I have seen, Indians, they have actually praised Trump. They like the idea of USAID, of the aid being stopped in their countries. They feel that the countries have been too dependent on aid. Yeah. They also believe, like in Kenya, they're saying that they have increased the cost of housing, for example. So many of the USAID, they have kind of like changed, given a sort of, they have kind of changed the economy in the city center and made housing inaccessible to many people. So many Kenyans are actually looking forward to being able to afford affordable quality housing, which is in the city center, and leave their single room studios. Of course, it's a dream, but you say you can imagine. They're saying, yeah, those of you guys who are in your single room studio, hey, you know what? Look out for where the houses are going to be costing 4,000 shillings now. Yeah. You'll get a 3-bedroom house for 4,000 shillings now. And those houses are going for like 400,000 shillings. Yeah. So Kenyans
Yeah.
are complaining about the inflation that is being caused by the presence of international agencies. Again, there's an issue of trust. They think there's an issue of trust and the issue of arrogance. They believe that the international development community have behaved in a very arrogant manner, that they are, haughty, that they're not down to earth, they don't integrate, and therefore they deserve what they're going to get now. And for those people who are losing their jobs, they say, okay, we're sorry that you're losing your job, but now you can join us in holding the government accountable. They want the Kenyans who are working for international development agencies such as USAID to now become one of them. They say, okay, very sorry that you're losing your job, but now you join us and you become one of us and you agitate for change in your country, positive change. Because you see, this is the issue that, these things have created, these jobs have created a cushion and a fake middle class, I would call it. Yeah, they're really cushioned. They have a free house. They have good cars. Their children are going to international schools. They're talking about international schools becoming more affordable or folding up altogether. Yes. The airlines are going to be affected because of the travel. There'll be no more high demand for travel back and forth, yeah, by air. The same problem with rental vehicles, and they believe that cars will become more affordable. So Kenyans are looking at things in Kenyans and people in the developing South are looking at this as an opportunity, and they're actually thanking Trump for this, and they call him a savior. So many nice words. But you see, the people who are working for these organizations, they're like, you guys don't even care about us. We are leading our families. We are the income earners in our families. And therefore, and then they said, yeah, so are we. We're also the heads of our families. There's this back and forth. If you look in the comment section, there's a back and forth. So yeah, so you're the income earner, so you're the main income earner in your family. Well, so am I. Yeah. So let's join hands together and look for solutions, sustainable solutions for ourselves. And I kind of agree with that in a way, to some extent, except that we also have to be realistic that there are no jobs. This is very idealistic talk. It's idealistic, and it's not really, fair to wish ill on other people who are losing their jobs. But on the other hand, again, at some point, we have to say enough is enough. When are we going to actually become truly independent as African nations? When are we going to hold our leaders accountable and, ensure that we start tracking the funding, the taxes that they collect, to ensure that it's not
Yeah.
going into their corrupt hands?
I
Yeah,
think it's
Susan.
a more complex issue than that. It's not just about, oh, we're the income earners and all that. It's the suddenness of it all. The suddenness of it. They're in shock. They've been traumatized. Things have changed really fast. You saw the Kisii group were given their salaries for January and sent on compulsory leave. So they had not planned it. It was just a
Yeah,
surprise. And
yeah.
it's not just
That
about
is
the
one
money.
argument. Yes,
It's
that's
not.
one
It's not.
argument. It's the shock, it's the suddenness, it's the lack of, like no notice period. But this is the second time that Trump is in office, and people are saying that. They're saying they know Trump. Trump has always been about America first. He said it last year in his campaigns, and so people had time, yeah, to. I actually think that governments are in denial. They have been in denial. They think that they can hoodwink, they think that they can manipulate the US, and unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that with Trump this time. I don't really think so. They should take him seriously. Yeah, they should take him
Yeah,
seriously. I don't think there's anything new about this. I think Trump is always that kind of a person. He says what he means what he says. If anybody was looking at his campaigns or listening to his campaigns, that's what he said. He said he's going to cut aid to the developing world. He did say that. Yeah, so I
yeah,
don't think that there's anything new. It's only that I think our presidents and our leaders in Africa and have been in denial, literally. Literally.
yeah,
They've been
yeah.
in
But
denial. People should
yeah,
have
he
started
said,
to prepare in advance.
yeah, he talked about moving fast and breaking things. That's what they're saying. That's their policy: moving fast and breaking things. So actually, what has happened as a result of the policy, they're moving really fast. I mean, there are so many executive orders and memorandum and all that. What's happening also is now there's a pushback through the courts. So, for instance, the freeze on aid, it's affecting them domestically too. So, 22 attorney generals and one district of, is it Columbia? They've taken the matter to court and they've been able to get an injunction, which is a temporary order to stop that freeze, pending the full hearing of the case. So the judge has said it's even unconstitutional. The main reason they're using is that the executive cannot usurp the role of Congress because the disbursement of funds is through Congress, and that is a constitutional duty that they have. That is the way the U.S. Constitution is. So the Congress are the ones who are mandated to decide where the money goes. That's their job. So the executive cannot overstep that. And especially since some of these monies were already disbursed, they were already allowed, not disbursed, they were allowed they'd passed through Congress, had been debated, and it was permitted. I think the shock comes in terms of immediate cessation as opposed to letting the contract end or the period end so that people can transition out of that system. The other thing I saw is that it's as if because they're trying to shrink government, they're trying to shrink it, they're trying to shrink the numbers to stop wastage. The merging of the function of USAID with the State Department. That's one of the things that they are considering. I read that somewhere. So this is one of the things they're trying to do to reduce wastage, block block extremism in terms of the block woke, and put America first so that the money comes back. But it's a very cyclical argument because, for instance, one of the big things, and let's talk about Elon Musk himself, is he accepted. People are not happy about the fact that this guy, who's not, he's a government employee, he's called a special government employee, and under that status, he can work up to 130 days in a year. And he's so powerful. He's all over the news. We're hearing more about him. That's what the article I was listening to, the video I was watching, I was saying he's well better known than J.D. Vance, who's the the vice president. And so he's going around doing all these things. Although Trump said, well, Elon is good at his job, but he cannot act without the consent. He cannot, take action without the approval, without his approval. So he's making decisions, and I think he's reporting directly to the president, and then that's how he's moving ahead. But it's not making the Americans happy. In fact, a poll was done. And showed that 39% of the Americans support his work, and 53% oppose it. And then they went further back and said in 2016, that was when I think the first Trump won season, his ranking was at +29. In 2024, it was at -3, and in 2025, it's at -11. So he's not a very popular person, and yet he's been given this huge task. And Americans are asking, who is this guy? We didn't vote for him. And in fact,
They
the
are saying that
Democrats,
he's not elected, but I also saw
yeah,
where Trump actually defended him. I also saw where Trump is defending him. I think there's a push and pull. Again, we have to be very careful about our sources of information because we know that the media is owned by certain people who are going to push back against this, war-free ideology of Trump. Because you see, almost half the budget of the US is the military industrial complex, MIC. And that means a lot of people are going to be out of money because they're not going to be actually purchasing those tools for war. Yeah. The focus is now not on war. The focus is on building back America and actually stopping war. So I think that the media is going to be, we have to be very, very careful about when we say that people are not happy about Elon Musk. Because on the other hand, he has a huge support. If they were not happy about Elon Musk, I don't think that Trump would have won this because Musk was one of the most critical factors for helping him win. you know he was actually one of the most critical, especially with his Starlink and also going out into the field, gathering votes for Trump. So I don't really think so. I think also because that Elon Musk is also because he's there are some controversial issues that he's dealing with right now that he's bringing up. He has been called the R word, okay, especially on the issue of South Africa and the division of land, the issue of land, the land rights of South Africa, that is being challenged by South Africans themselves. Yes. In that particular area, one does not have to agree with Musk in totality, but one has to at least understand that he does have a role to play, and he wouldn't do like Trump said, he wouldn't be actually effective without permission. He is being enabled by Trump you know, to go ahead and propose solutions. Yeah, to propose things. And a lot of the things that we don't expect Musk to be normal, to be like a regular human being. He's not. He's not regular. He is controversial, and that's how he has managed to become one of the richest man in the world. Yeah, coming from South Africa. Yeah, he's an innovator. He's those people who are at the head. You know, they're the people who are at the head of us, and then the people at the tail. And the people in front are always alone. They're loners. They don't go in twos and threes. They always go alone. You know, there's the innovator, then there's a laggard. Many of us are at the back here, you know, saying, oh, no, no, I don't want to come along. But then there's some people, you know, who have a vision for what they want. And I think in some ways, I myself personally, I do agree with Elon Musk on many things, but I also do disagree with him on many things. But I wouldn't actually rubbish him or even underestimate his popularity in the US, because again we also know who owns the media, and what the narrative is and why it's there. Like for example, this pushback on USAID programming. I myself, having worked on their projects, some of them super successful, and others, you know, not successful at all, and others questionable even. You know, I've seen the array of programs on the ground, and some of them it just, you know, they all kind of depend on the individual organization that is implementing those programs, and it's got much less to do with USAID than actually the individual organizations and the people that manage those organizations, what they actually achieve or not. But USAID is mainly a facilitator in terms of funding. Now, in terms of how they make their decisions, in terms of the secrecy, in terms of, you know, what they do behind closed doors, that's not really, we don't really have much access to that information. And that's the reason why I think also when they were trying to stop, is it called Dodge, you know, from going in and trying to access classified information, you know, they were refused, they were stopped by USAID. And this became, you know, an issue for Elon Musk. You know, I think that's one of the major issues, that this secrecy, why are they secret? It's a public organization. What is there for them to hide? And I think also Elon Musk has a personal issue with the woke culture because of what happened to his child. He said that he lost his son and he now has a daughter. So this is a personal thing as well. So we need to understand that he has a motivation. It's not a bad thing to, it's not bad to have, you know, to have a passion because of a personal experience. But what's important is also to ensure that you're not going to be doing harm to people. Again, you know, people should be tied to the professional ethics. Professional ethics should come in, because we might actually be creating more harm than good by stopping USAID, like you said, abruptly, you know. But on the other hand, sometimes some tough decisions have to be made. And I think that in fact, I don't really think, I think there's been some sort of concessions that have been made. I read somewhere that there's some concessions that have been made. Like, for example, they're going to consider staff who are pregnant. If you're pregnant, they can delay. You can be delayed. You know, you can. They'll consider it case by case business, case by case basis. Either that, or maybe you're far, or maybe you're in the middle of a project. You know, they're gonna, you know, identify. It will be on a case by case basis, and everybody will have an opportunity, you know, to consider. Because again, also, it may not be safe for you to travel. You may not be able to get a flight on time. It may not be safe. You might be located in a place that's not safe, or there might be some pushback on you. But I know eventually they're going to have to stop this aid. Yeah, and it's going to have to come to an end at some point. We just better get ready for it. We as Africans, we better get ready for it, because actually we were looking forward at some point to the day when we become truly self-sufficient. Like, who contributes? Okay, we, you know, it's probably better to borrow money the way America has borrowed money. America is in crazy debt. America is in debt to China, to China. You know, America is in crazy, crazy debt, and so is Europe. Many European countries, like the UK, is in great debt. So for the rest of us, we're not in debt because we've been receiving money, but we are also in debt because, on the other hand, this is not free money that comes to Africa, because, you know, they get rights to things like minerals and, you know, yeah. And so Let me talk to you. Let me let you speak.
Yeah, that's really true that there are always two sides to a coin in a discussion. And you know so people's assessment or of a situation could be different depending on what side you're on. I was just laughing. I was listening to the interviews of the of the nominees for different for different positions and the type of circus that was there, and it sort of reminded me of some of the things we see in our when nominees are being interviewed sometimes, and the type of questions, and that so it can be grueling. Actually, it's not easy. So that was a very interesting thing to observe as well. Yeah, so the big question is, as a result of this change, what happens next? And we know for sure, we've seen some organizations are going to close down, like you said, and not open. Some are going to wait. Meanwhile, there's a layoff of staff. Then there's the challenge of no access of services to those who have been depending on those services. Um, and then there could be a resumption, but on renewed terms, depending on on what the Secretary of State has seen aligns well with the U.S. policy. And then there could be again there are the legal action challenges, which we expect there to be many, because of the constitutional issues. And so far, there have been several. There's been this one on the funds freeze in the US, and each state actually has to bring their own application. So far, 22 attorney generals. So those are 22 states and one district, the District of Columbia, has brought an action to unfreeze the aid. So we've had that. We've also had application on the birthright citizenship issue, and that was also frozen because it was deemed to be unconstitutional too. So there are a number of them. And another thing, by the way, the other thing I found out was that the Haiti, do you remember the Haiti, our police officers going to Haiti?
Yeah.
That is also affected by by this program because it's voluntary. The US government was giving the money voluntarily, and that has been stopped. So we have our people in Haiti.
That is
And
true.
this
That is $1.6 billion of funding. No, 1.6 billion shillings of funding to Haiti, right? So it's been frozen with immediate effect. And
yeah
yet we had the president say that he had actually talked to Trump. Wasn't that last year? He had talked about it. And he was actually, I thought they were actually going to increase the number of, or did they not already increase the number of troops going into to Haiti, number of police by 200. In fact, most of them were going to be women. Do you recall reading something like that,
yeah.
Susan?
You mentioned it in one of our shows
I
that
did.
the number had been increased. Yeah, and the
Yes.
women,
Yeah, the
there
number
was
had
an
been
all women.
increased by 200. Yes.
Mm.
And now they're
But
freezing
now,
the 1.6 billion shilling funding with immediate effect.
yeah,
So what happens? All the Haiti police are going to come back.
yeah, I expect they'll come back too. I expect they'll come back. The US people will go. The US aid staff in different countries are going to go back to their country if their if their offices are not reopened. Yeah, and even there are all types of things that we are going to expect and see in this season. And like you said, it's better that the African nations in particular dig in and be innovative in looking for ways to fill those financing gaps and to reduce the dependency, because I think that's been one of the, when you read these reports actually, um, these evaluation reports and all these reports, some of the things that always come from the donor nations is that there's over dependence on the donors, especially in Africa. They say there's too over dependence on the we're not disengaging, and we should with the years.
They don't even
We
come up.
should.
They don't even come up with our own plans, with our own
Yeah,
programs. Yeah, they're directed
Certainly,
from elsewhere. Yeah. Actually,
certainly.
to clarify the Haiti deployment, apparently Kenya was preparing to deploy additional officers, including an all-female SWAT team to bolster security because they're facing logistical problems. So apparently, U.S. is just one of the funders, but then there's also it's backed by the UN Security Council, and it's also, it's backed by Canada, other countries, so it's got quite a bit of money. But the fact is that, the sustainability of the whole mission is an issue, especially because the Haiti gangs are, increasing they're becoming emboldened. Yeah.
A really tough situation because Haiti is one of the nations where they have those criminal gangs, and they really don't. They've actually had. You remember we talked about the humanitarian parole program
Yeah.
during Biden's time.
Mm-hmm.
Haitians went to the U.S. under that program
Mm-hmm.
because and they were fleeing the violence in their country. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so it's a real issue. The
Yeah.
real issue there. Yeah,
But what is also, yeah, that's true. And then now with the NGOs, you see the World Vision. World Vision is an NGO in Kenya. It's inviting
yeah.
applications for jobs.
Mm.
Okay, they have job vacancies. You see that, and it's just like about 3 hours ago on Tuko News. You see, World Vision Kenya has announced new job openings for February 2025, inviting qualified Kenyans to apply and contribute to its mission of improving the lives of vulnerable children, communities, and all that. If anyone has ever visited the World Vision offices here here in Nairobi, have you seen the wall that is around that organization? World Vision is a faith-based NGO, and it
Yeah.
actually looks like a military base. It's actually located right opposite the Kenya military base. Yeah. And it
Mm.
looks like it is completely, sealed. You cannot even get in there without an appointment. You cannot. There are
Yeah.
like almost cops there, It is
Mm.
so secured. You even wonder why. And this is the reason why. And yet, if you see the funding, who funds World Vision? The biggest funder to World Vision is USAID.
Yeah.
USAID is the biggest donor. And meanwhile, right now, they're busy advertising jobs in Kenya right now for Kenyans to go and apply. And that's the reason why I talk about fake jobs. Yeah, they talk about positions, project coordinator in Samburu. I don't know what other kinds of jobs. Employees, a competitive compensation. They're promising a competitive compensation package and all that. But the thing they're not telling you is that those jobs are not secure jobs. They're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if USAID considers exemptions and and things like that, it doesn't. We're not sure. We don't know. Why would they consider exemptions to World Vision? Is it because it's a faith-based organization?
No, then that's not one of the exceptions. Right now, the ones who have got the waiver are the ones
Mm-hmm.
under Pepfar, the ones who
Under Pepfar.
HIV.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So where are they getting their money from?
food. Oh yeah, food
Mm-hmm.
feeding programs. Yeah, the feeding
Yeah.
programs also.
Yeah.
They're also not suffering. But I saw
Yeah.
that US gave Kenya in 2023 846 billion 303 488. We are the 10th
Wow.
largest beneficiary or recipient of US support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This is going to
that's
be a
that's
big
the
blow
type
to
of
Kenya then.
that's the type of aid we got. Yeah, that's the type of
Mm-hmm.
aid we got. But
Yeah.
I
That's a.
think about Haiti, when we go back there, I think to some extent
Mm-hmm.
that they were trying to create employment
Mm-hmm.
for people, and that's one of the things we're doing because you've noticed we've been exporting labor. That's a very strange thing to export. To
Yes.
We've been exporting labor, and in fact, the first thing I thought of when I looked at that Haiti thing, I said, "Are we continuing to export labor? I mean, they're sending these people into these extremely dangerous zone. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
actually very
Mm-hmm.
dangerous, and they're saying that
Very.
that is not going very well. By the way, it's not
Yeah,
going
but we
very
don't
well.
we don't even get feedback. We don't even know whether they're safe in those countries
Yeah,
where they are. Are they really safe? You know? Are they?
Six.
We just hear about them going, but we never hear about them coming back. Or even nobody tells us about how they're doing. We never get to hear about them. Yeah.
Yeah, there have been
And it's really
delays
bad
though
because they say, yeah.
in payment. There are delays even in remittanting. Remember, there have
Uh-huh.
been a lot of reports that they're saying that they're resigning, they have not
Mm-hmm.
been paid for so long, and this and that. You know, they have not been paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. I don't think
So
it's a
if they
very
resign, do they
attractive
come back
offer.
to the country? Do they come back to Kenya?
Well, they should. If they're no longer working there, they should, because they went there on a work permit. Yes, they went there on a work
Yeah,
permit, and I'm sure the
yeah.
visas are very specialized. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the visas are
Yeah,
very, very specialized. I was
yeah.
listening to Trump
Mm-hmm.
talking about something, was calling it the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and he he,
Just a
he
minute
signed
on
an
Haiti.
executive.
1 minute
Mm,
on Haiti.
mm,
They're talking about Haiti mission. Yeah, and then remember the Sovereign Health Fund. On
yeah.
Haiti mission, they call it an international security mission that is approved by the UN Security Council. Yeah, but they say it's not. It is approved by the UN Security Council, but it's not a UN operation, and it relies on voluntary contributions. But look at the countries that are deployed to Haiti to restore order. It's Kenya, El Salvador, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Belize. 900 police officers and troops deployed from these countries. Kenya, I guess, is the only one from Africa. Yeah? 900 of them relying on voluntary contributions, and now Trump has pulled out. So if he has pulled out, what does it mean in terms of the rest of the voluntary contributors? What's going to happen? Yeah. So, okay, go ahead, Susan. Let's listen to your heart.
Either they have to cover the space, or they have to withdraw from the program altogether. Because I
Yeah.
think the largest proportion was actually from the US,
Mm-hmm.
and this was during Biden's time, and Kenya was the blue-eyed boy during Biden's time. That's what we were being called. the blue-eyed, the blue-eyed boy. I have the
That's a real
figure somewhere.
insult, actually, for an African to be called
You
blue-eyed,
you
unless you're from Pacific, the South Pacific, where they have people
remember?
with blue eyes.
Yeah, you don't
Oh my
remember
God,
the
and
report?
blonde hair. Oh my, Africans with blue eyes and blonde hair. Hi,
Yeah.
that is too much. Yeah. So you guys, I hope you guys are following the show. Thank you so much for being here. I can see you over there. Welcome to the show. Thank you for giving us our hearts. Remember to give us thumbs up to our show. This is just a little discussion. It's just, you don't have to know too much, but you can have an opinion. I'm sure you have an opinion. I see all the opinions in the comment sections, and they always make me laugh. You know, yeah. Let's look at this situation. You know, our world is changing right before our eyes, and we should actually be grateful
Exactly.
to be in this stage of our, to be here to witness the change. It's a huge
Yeah.
change that's come about. It's huge. It's really huge, guys. It's bigger than we
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Talking of change, was this executive order that some two gentlemen were assigned to the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and they said it would be Sovereign Wealth Fund,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that, an idea they've borrowed from other countries, and one of them, I think one of them is Saudi Arabia, and what
Yeah.
it is, they said it will be operationalized in 12 months, and they're going to monetize the assets. So basically, what's going to happen is they will not give anything without getting anything back. So they're trying
Okay.
to build a fund. That's something they're trying to do.
Why
The
do they
other
need to
big,
build a fund? Why don't they just operate like Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso? Do they actually have a fund?
I don't know. That's what they want to do.
It's
That's
weird.
the idea, that they
This
will not.
idea of having these funds, I don't really trust. Who's going to be in charge of the funds?
They
Who's
have
going to
some
be in
tools.
charge of them? Hmm.
They've assigned some people to do that work.
Yeah, that's the
And then
problem. The only people who should be in charge of the fund is just the government, is the people, nobody else.
and then there
Yeah.
was the very hot issue about the Gaza Strip, and people are up
Oh,
in
yeah.
arms about that. You saw
Yeah.
that
Yes, I
announcement?
did.
He said
I did.
the US
Actually,
will
Trump
take
said,
over.
you guys, did you hear that Trump said that we're going to own it? We're going to own it.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, we could do a lot with it. It's a lovely place. I was like, are you talking about a lovely place where 40,000 people's lives are actually in the rubble? 40,000 people have lost their lives in Gaza. You're talking about it being a nice place? You see, this is why I say that you can never be a sycophant for Trump. You can never, because he's always going to put his foot in his mouth and say something that's going to be totally offensive to too many people. You can't be describing Gaza as this wonderful place. No, but what the only good thing I can say that might come out of that is that maybe, well, America is taking responsibility to rebuild Gaza. The question is,
Yeah,
are the Palestinian people going to be allowed in? Yeah,
yeah,
are they going to be?
yeah.
Hmm?
They're saying, so where will they be when it's being rebuilt? Where will those
Where will
Palestinians
they
be?
be? Because they can't go back
Yeah,
home. And the Palestinians
yeah.
are pushing back. They're pushing back on that. And
Oh,
Israel, I saw the Israeli Benjamin Netanyahu describing Trump as the best friend of Israel. But he really is. If you look at Trump, you would love to have a friend like Trump. Because if he's your friend for life, regardless. Should I use that word? Irregardless of Uhuru. Irregardless of what you do or whatever you do in this world, Trump is a die hard friend. He's a forever friend. He's a BFF. Trump is a true BFF.
yeah. He's going to take action. He's not somebody who sits by the roadside
Yeah.
watching things. He's a man
Mhm.
of action for sure.
He
Yeah, he's
sure
a
is.
man
He
of
sure is.
action.
Yeah, one of the comments I saw online was somebody who said, Trump picked up the Bible and started working immediately, while our person here picked up the Bible and went and stopped working immediately for the people.
For sure. East.
He started working immediately for the American
He's going
people.
to make this
Hmm. It's crazy. Sorry, I'm having
yeah.
a problem with my throat today. My God. Mm.
Okay, yeah, so he's having this lovely place called Riviera of the East, and they're going to develop it so beautifully, and it's going to be a lovely place. Then, of course, to how is he going to do that? There was perhaps a suggestion of U.S. military intervention, and then the question that came up was a legal question on whose authority. He was asked that question, and he said his answer was everyone loves it. And the question was on whose authority? Does it comply with international law? I mean, this is a sovereign state. Does it comply with that? And how is that really helping them to resolve the issue of peace and conflict between the two nations? And then he
Yeah.
was saying, oh, where will the Palestinians go? And he said, oh, Egypt and Jordan. And both Egypt
So
and
they're just going
Jordan
to
have
stay
said that's
outside there
not
while
going
he
to happen.
develops this country. Well, it's like everybody move out. Hey, I'm here. Big Brother is here to rescue you and redevelop this place into this beautiful Riviera. While you stay
But
in
they don't need
Egypt.
to be outside. You can still develop the place where people are still there.
You
So
see
I
what is
don't know.
happening. Trump is thinking
Mhm.
like a businessman. There are
Yeah,
times I think he forgets that he's a politician and he starts thinking business. He starts having these dreams. He's doing
yeah.
his business plan right now, and he wants to front it like he used to do with the entrepreneur. What's it called? The entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, he's
He's,
very
yeah,
transactional. He's very transactional.
super transactional.
Remember,
That's why he's a very
yeah,
good.
Babayaro was saying he's very transactional. I remember
He's
that
thinking of a
that
pitch.
show.
In fact, the way he's talking about Palestine,
Yeah,
the way he's talking about Gaza, it's like he's pitching it to the
yeah.
American public. It's like a
Actually, when you talked about the Riviera of the East, the comment was that though that was looking at it through a real estate lens. He was not even
yeah.
seeing perhaps the
He wasn't
people
seeing the
and
people.
their customs and their culture and their investment in that space, and that is who they are. They're from
Yeah.
it was quite the I was watching the interview, and how the questions came fast and furious because people
Hmm.
were asking, the journalists were like, "Are you saying this? Are you, what
It's the
does
same
this
thing with
mean?"
the Gulf of America and Greenland.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
see
the
how he
Gulf,
does.
the Gulf, yeah. He's
Gulf of
very
America.
focused. Yeah,
Mexico
and by
said you
the
can
way,
call it whatever you want to call it. We are still calling it the
yeah,
Gulf of Mexico, okay? Yeah. So
yeah,
you
that's
call it
what they
whatever you
said.
want to call it. Yeah.
And apparently there are 2 million people in that area. The population is about 2 million people. So, it's one of those things. There's a lot of opinions are flying there. And he said, he talked about this being a long-term ownership by the US, and they're going to develop and create jobs, and it'll be occupied by people of all nations. So, he's got this. You can just imagine the little map that has been drawn. So
Yeah.
that one got a lot of. I think people will be talking about this for many days. I'm sure
Oh yeah, let's see how that story develops. That's a very interesting story right there. Hey,
that'll
Trump,
be-
Trump the businessman. Hmm?
yeah,
Going
yeah.
back to USAID, they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about aid freezes are going to threaten 19,000 kids' meals, vital drugs, agriculture. The senators are urging action. Yeah. So there was a letter that was addressed to Senate. I think that's what you were talking about. The letter that was addressed to Senate President pro tempore what's it? Nyombli Kanga, whatever, Lawrence. He's signed by prominent senators, Amara, whatever, and the rest of them. Yeah. Regarding the US suspension of foreign aid, they believe it presents considerable challenges to initiatives focused on enhancing the nation's public health, education, and agricultural sectors. Okay. So
Yeah,
basically, and then also, um, there's also the issue of the support for Liberia's development objectives also. So you see, there's Liberia, Rwanda. Everybody's crying, and they were asked by Uhuru, "Why are you crying? You
yeah,
don't pay taxes to America."
yeah. He can do what he wants, basically. Yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, what they're
yeah,
saying is that the health sector is literally standing on shaky ground, and USAID contributions have been instrumental in ensuring access to antiretroviral medications and stuff. But the question is, why are we still accessing antiretrovirals through aid programs? In fact, it's quite shocking because the last time I was working in aid was probably 10 years ago now. Yeah.
yeah.
And still,
Mm-hmm.
and before that, I was working there like for 20 years. So what the heck is going on? Why are we still there? Why hasn't anything changed? Yeah. And then they also say that, another argument they're saying is that they will lose their influence. They're talking about civil society organizations being recipient of USAID funds, and that it will affect democracy, human rights, rule of law, education, health. But they're saying that without funding, these organizations will have no choice but to seek support from other countries and partners, or
Yeah.
else they'll find it extremely difficult to survive. So their worry is that they're going to be upstaged by other countries. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
this is an issue of influence. They're interested in influence. But why are you using USAID to influence politically, to influence democracy? What you call democracy, So they talk about the America being a very powerful, influential because of its generosity. So generosity is being weaponized, in my view, because they're talking about like it will undermine democracy and protect dictatorship. But then don't we already feel like we're already in dictatorships in Africa? So many African countries have become dictatorships. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with
Marco
USA.
Rubio. Yeah, Marco Rubio is the new secretary of, in charge of, he's the Secretary of State, and he was
Oh,
saying
okay.
that America is not a charity, so they're no longer going to support any country that is that is or any program that is contrary to their policies. And in
Yeah.
fact, on that note, they've withdrawn from the UN Human Rights Council. That's another
Oh,
big announcement that was made.
that's huge.
Um,
That's huge.
yeah, he withdrew from the UN Human Rights Council. He said that I listened to somebody. He said it's not being well run, And I was listening to an interview by an American, and he said, yeah, um, this UN Human Rights Council, the people who are sitting in that council are among the greatest offenders of human rights. And he was giving the names of some of them, and then I checked also. And DRC has a seat. There are 18 new countries that were brought into it. DRC has a seat there. Kenya has a seat there, and you've seen how we're making noise about the abductions and all that business, and the issues with that, and other countries,
True.
and many of them,
Offenders, serious
many of them.
and we have seats there. Who else has a
Yeah,
seat?
so this guy was like, no, I mean, that the Americans don't. It's okay for them to pull out of that, and then they are reviewing the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization. They're also reviewing UNESCO. They're saying the two of them have, ideas that are contrary to their national interests. Oh, by the way, the other countries that are in the Human Rights Council are Colombia, Qatar, Mexico. They're the ones, yeah.
True
The 18,
offenders of human rights, for real.
yeah,
Auntie, what?
18 new.
Colombia, who
Colombia,
else?
Qatar, Mexico. There are others. There were many, and Kenya is there as well. And these are countries
I
where,
guess also there.
yeah. So they were looking at those two UN organizations, the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization, and UNESCO, that they have policies that are contrary to national interests of the US. Of
Yeah,
course,
the
the US
UN, literally, the UN has been put on notice now. Yeah.
they're going to,
In my view,
yeah,
the UN is on notice. As an evaluator, I can just tell the UN, this is your time to now show all your evaluation reports and show how you're aligned, how you are aligned. Your programming is aligned to the new US government. There's no other
yeah,
way. They should also stop crying. They should also get a lecture from Uhuru. Stop crying. Show your alignment. Yes, show the programming. Show that you are aligned. Demonstrate it with numbers, with figures. This is your chance. This is their chance to do that. They either do that or they just get, they just lose their funding. And it's going to be a big issue because, for example, Kenya hosts the UN here, and so does Ethiopia. Yeah, we host the biggest number of UN agencies in
yeah,
Africa, here in Nairobi and in
yeah,
Ethiopia, those two. So if they were to lose that, do you know what the ripple effects on the government, on the economies of our country is going to be huge in terms of
yeah,
real estate? Real estate, jobs, so many hundreds of thousands of jobs, will be affected. People's livelihoods. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for us, but in a way, it's like inevitable. I just hope that they will slow it down a little bit, honestly. It's going to be difficult. They need to go slow, like you're saying. And now when I think about it, if you're telling me they're reviewing all these others, this is not a joke. Because what they're trying to do is to save money. That's what USAID is trying to do. Yeah.
yeah. I
Because
think also,
yeah. Okay, go
their
ahead.
policy, especially on the DEI, the diversity, equality, and inclusion, those issues, they want to just, separate themselves from that, because that's one of the reasons, the woke culture, the ideological issue that they feel is really, has really dragged the US down. That's now the Republicans. They're just trying to just remove literally all those elements in everything. And I think these two groups may have been supporting some of these things. Yeah, and
Yeah.
supporting ideologies that oppress women. Because that's the other thing. Those ideologies that are affecting the women's position, society. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they're very strong about that. Another one is another surprise, not surprise, another new order. Well, this, I think, is a memorandum, although he said It's
Susan,
called
as we are
maximum.
talking about, wait, before you move to another order, let's continue with this USAID. I just picked up something here, like, USAID staff have been put on leave, right? Hundreds of, but then now let's talk about the internal contractors and external contractors, because they're talking about Department of Government. This is Musk's they're calling it so-called Department of Government Efficiency. Okay, employees. Basically, what they've done is that the blanket stop work orders that were issued by the State Department. They say they have thrown the aid industry into panic. Now, the biggest problem that they're having there is that there's, like, for example, there's this guy who was saying, his name is Steve Shidma, a co-founder of Vermont-based Renaissance. Okay, Vermont is in the US. Okay, it's a state in the US, and a USAID contractor for many years, working in areas such as innovation, fisheries, conservation, trade, and investment. So they say the issue has become an existential one. These are people who have millions of dollars in invoices due to be paid that have been approved by clients, okay, and of the US government. But unfortunately, many of them may not be paid. That is the risk. The risk is that an official at USAID implementing partner who spoke on condition of anonymity due to fear of retribution said the company had to furlough hundreds of US based staff and were owed over $50 million by the US government in invoices from November and December that are past due. Both the official, but the only thing I can say about that, and this is why I say we have to be careful about our sources of news and information, is that these contracts are bound by law. They are legally bound, like Susan was saying. Yeah. So once you have a contract, they have to pay it. Unless the only way that they will not pay it is by saying that they're not happy with the job. Maybe they're not happy with the job, or maybe they can say that there was no more funds available for the position, and maybe you have already signed. Those are the risks that you take as a contractor, and it becomes a big risk. But you see, for those guys, for contractors who are based in countries like America, they're basically covered by insurance. Now, many of us who are contractors here in Africa are not covered by insurance for that kind of business. So the people who are going to suffer the most are the contractors who are based in developing countries. Yeah, those guys who are based in the US, those guys will have access to some sort of insurance. It will pay. And this is the reason why it's so unequal. Talking about democracy, there's no democracy here. It's not a democratic space when you're working as a contractor for these international NGOs. You're there, you're a small consultant, you don't have insurance, you're in Africa, but then you're working with a colleague who is fully insured in Europe or in America. So if they lose their job, they still get money. And if you lose your job, you get nothing. And this is the risk. This is the biggest risk. And I think these guys should be careful, not to cause harm, to people. Be very careful about, how the exit strategy, it should be fair and democratic, and not just democratic, it should be humane as possible. As much as they're trying to save money, you also want to save face, and you still want to be able to relate with people once you're gone. You don't want to create enemies and isolate America from the world. What do you think, Susan, about that? Yeah. Okay, so you were saying something about something else.
No, for sure. I just want to add to what you're saying. For sure, that's what I was saying. It's the shock of the suddenness of the cessation of the funding.
Oh, yeah.
The repercussions, the domino effect on pre-existing contracts, and then the Congress issue that we did pass this budget to USAID, and they did release they got into an agreement with they got some implementing partners all over the world. And so there's that issue, and that's literally the executive overstepping the lines into the legislature's role. And there's separation of powers, and that's why it's a constitutional issue. And so even for the contract, they can sue. I'm seeing many people suing, like it was a lot of money, like 50 million.
Yeah.
They can sue and say, look, this was all approved. You've changed it after the fact, and this was all approved. And so
Yeah.
really the right thing to do is to stop anymore and just allow the ones that are ongoing to end. You give them a period to roll down, to roll out, to find ways to manage the situation. Having an exit strategy, I don't think it anticipates a situation where you're told tap off immediately. You're given at least
Yeah.
a period of time within which to adjust. So that's the shock of it. I think that's what these people are doing, and that's why they took
Yeah.
the matter to court, and that's why it was
Mm-hmm.
taken to court. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I was listening to one of the programs is saying because of the fast and furious way things are being done, um, and the way they're affecting so many people. I mean, just when you check, there's so many industries that are being affected. How, for instance, the tariffs issue, which we have not talked about, and how it's affecting people. There are so many things that are being affected just by these orders. It's not a simple thing that's happening. So, for instance, even there's issues with FBI and CIA. Those are security issues. The FBI, there are two class actions that have been brought because of a decision that all those people who did the investigations over the 6th January 6th issue, they should lose their jobs. And so they're protesting and saying, we can't. I mean, they're protesting against the loss of their jobs. CIA is also facing some sort of problem as well. So there's so many things happening so fast. And there could be a strategy to make sure that there's no time really for people take a breath of fresh air and prepare well for the next thing that's coming. So it could be that.
Yeah.
But certainly, it's like you said, it's a changing world. And Trump, we have seen, is
Yeah,
a man
because
of
the
action.
Democrats are asking. The Democrats are
Yeah,
asking whether
yeah.
presidents whether they have the constitutional authority to eliminate USAID, and they say it's not clear. It's not really clear. That they say that they lack the constitutional authority, but it's not clear what would stop them from trying.
No, they
They
can do
can
it
try.
because, in fact,
They can try.
carrying on that argument, USAID was formed in 1961 by JF Kennedy. That was
Yes.
an
Yes.
executive action.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The funding through USAID is coming through Congress. So the money
Mm-hmm.
constitutionally is approved through Congress. Although it was formed by the executive, the money that was approved through Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that issue of how do the two work together? Is this an overstep? And in such
Mm-hmm.
situations, what is the situation supposed to be? So that's why I'm saying I'm seeing quite a lot of cases coming out. There are going to be a lot of cases where it's a good thing actually to keep the courts busy and keep challenging issues, and that's how you
Mm-hmm.
develop the law. You breathe life into it when people are saying my constitutional rights have been offended or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, something like that. So there's so many things, and from what I can see from Trump, there's so many more orders he's going to keep making. He's going to keep
Mm-hmm.
making, and he's going to keep making them. And
Actually, they said they're going to do that for the next 4 years. They promised it. It's not going to stop for the next four
yeah,
years. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
and you
think
can see
as
also.
we're winding up,
Mhm.
I think maybe we need to bring this thing home, and ask ourselves: the end of USAID means Kenyans losing their jobs, right? Literally,
Yeah.
you know. So there's already, there's a lot of people who are earning huge salaries, up to like 400,000 a month, which is probably about how much? How much is 100,000? 100,000 is about what? It's like about maybe $3,600 a month, which is a lot for Kenyans, for Kenya, about 3,000 plus, and they're living in plush neighborhoods, yeah. And those neighborhoods, of course, have become very, very expensive with high rents, you know. And the question is, then what happens then if they lose their jobs? What happens to the landlords? What happens to the security people? What happens to the people who are working for these people? What about the taxi services? What about the grocery shops? It's going to have a ripple effect in our economy, definitely, because there'll be many less people. There'll be the airports will be full of people leaving the country because they can't sustain themselves if they don't have projects to do. And not just the international community, but also the local community at the grassroots level. Many communities are going to have nothing to do because they had projects that they were working on. They were kept busy. So now they'll be looking at the government. They'll be looking at the government. So, okay, so this project is no longer here anymore. Water project is gone. Our nutrition project is gone. So, what are we going to be doing with ourselves? Yeah. And many people were being given little bits of money here and there to facilitate projects. Like, let's say you get a farmer to go and show you around to get to bring other farmers around, to coordinate. They get a little bit, a few dollars here and there, but now they're not going to get it. And how are they? They're used to that. That's an aid dependency culture. It's very difficult to get rid of it. There's certain parts of this country and there's certain countries that are completely aid dependent. People have a mentality of aid dependency. It's very difficult to get rid of it. But I'm really hoping that, we now have to become very, very innovative. Yeah. And come up with solutions for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
It will affect, because it will affect the poor people. Yes, that's what they're saying is going to affect poor people. But the question is, they don't owe us the money. That's just a fact. Really,
I think
yeah.
also it's the issue of priority. Because what has happened basically is that we don't budget well for, say, health and education and all that, because we know that there's going to be we're going to get aid which was going to support or cover that gap. So the money that is allocated for other things rather than the areas that we get a lot of support. So for instance, health gets a lot of support, donor support, education too. And so the allocation, the budgetary allocation is less. So that thinking has to change immediately. In fact, I heard them
Yes.
saying that the CS of health saying we have to go back to Treasury and negotiate, and so that they will provide for
Yeah.
they will give us the money actually that they're supposed to give for health.
One of the biggest problems is the health ministry, to be honest. The health
Yeah,
ministry
yeah,
is an issue
yeah,
because they do not give money for research. Why? Because it's funded by donors. And
yeah,
so you find like people like Kemry, they don't really get the funding that they're supposed to get for non-communicable diseases.
yeah,
Non-communicable diseases like cancer. And now you see they're not covered. They're not covered
yeah,
by cancer, diabetes, all these. But what they'll get funding for is, communicable diseases,
yeah,
and unfortunately, the reason why is because they are a priority for the donor countries. The donor countries actually will say, we've already done the research, we have the drugs for HIV, for cancer, for diabetes, so you don't need to do the research for your people. Yeah. And yet we could have actually gotten more efficient and better quality drugs for our own people if we had the money to research it. But the government is actually not allocating. The Ministry of Health is the one that's supposed to allocate the funds to the research. The money all comes into one big pot in Ministry of Health. Then it's supposed to be allocated out, but it's not. So it becomes top down, very heavy with bureaucracy and administration, and less
yeah,
with program implementation. And that's the thing. Now we're going to be reliant on maybe China, maybe India for their drugs. Right now we got a lot of drugs from India. So there'll be countries that will be benefiting from this now. India and
mm-hmm.
China. And this is now what America has to look at and decide whether it wants its companies, its big pharma companies, to go out of business. Because they will. Very soon they'll be out of business.
Yeah, in fact, I was listening to one of the interviews. They're saying, "Oh, the China is really happy that the US is pulling out of things, so they'll be able now to
Yeah.
fill that gap and have greater influence globally." But this Rubio guy said, "Well, we're not going to waste our money on and invest in places which are not beneficial to our country." So they've taken quite a hard stand on that
Yeah.
one. And they
They
feel that
also say
when
that
they,
Kenya is a bit farther along than some other African countries. Kenya,
yeah,
South Africa, there's some countries, but there's so we can share our knowledge, and maybe it's time. Anyway, it's really harsh because we've been thrown into the deep end just like that.
I think the other group of people who will be affected by this change is the supply chain, the people along the
Yeah,
supply chain.
yeah.
They'll also lose their jobs. They'll not be able to. They'll not perhaps be earning the same income they were earning, or that reliability, that expectation that I'm supplying this particular NGO or this hospital with this and that and the other. Those are the other group of people that will be affected. And like you said,
Yeah.
okay, we talk about family members as well, the people who are dependents of the people working in all those areas who are benefiting, getting some economic benefit from it. I think the other thing again is if there's a gap in the supply of the medicine for whatever reason, the consequences are dire because people could lose their lives. People could lose their lives. People could get drug resistance to the drugs because of the gap and the space between when they've been taking the drug. They could also get new infections as a result because the medicine is not there to help them to control the spread of the disease. And that's in particular HIV, AIDS, and maybe
Yeah.
TB as well, and stuff like that. We could have, for instance, malaria is a very sort of dynamic situation. The disease is very dynamic, and that's why research needs to continue. Our research institutions also are not going to be able to keep up and keep advising on the changes, a new strain, and they keep
Relying on you.
watching out for it.
We're quite far ahead with malaria, though. We've developed vaccination, at least. I'd like to share my screen, if you don't mind. I want to show you which countries are going to be most affected when USAID withdraws. Can you see my screen? Yeah, I think you can see it. The top receivers of US foreign aid, according to this screen, I wish this thing would just go away, is Ukraine. Ukraine actually receives a lot of money. It receives $166 billion. What? They really receive a lot of money. Let me see. I was looking for my glasses. Sorry, I can't even find them anymore. Yeah. So they receive 160. No, is it 166? I hope I'm seeing correctly here
It's
because I
a
don't.
trillion. I
It
think
can't
it's
be
a
correct.
trillion.
No, it's 16. Sorry. $16 billion. They get $16 billion. And then Israel gets $3 billion. Ethiopia gets a lot. It gets $1.7 billion. Jordan, yeah, it gets about, also about the same. And then Egypt, and then Afghanistan, and then Somalia. My goodness. So those are the countries: Nigeria, DRC, Syria, Kenya. Kenya is getting 0.6 billion, okay, from the US. Yeah. So those are the main ones. Those are the main ones. South Sudan a little bit, Uganda, but by far it's Ukraine, Israel, Ethiopia, Jordan, Egypt, Afghanistan, Somalia, Nigeria. And I think I also saw that Trump committed himself to continue supporting Israel. So I think they will be still okay. But as you can see, Ukraine was the biggest receiver of US aid money. Yeah,
You know
16 billion.
why?
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
So
of
now
the
they're not going to
war.
be receiving it, but Israel will. Kenya is up
Yeah,
there, but not that far up. Yeah. So Ethiopia is like, we should watch and see what happens with Ethiopia. Yeah. Ethiopia is a
by the
big
way,
beneficiary of aid.
Ethiopia is also on the UN, the Human Rights Council. I think that's why it's also on the Human Rights Council. I just didn't get the list to show, but yeah, a lot of countries which are, in breach of human rights are the ones that, or their challenges to our human rights record are
Yeah.
now members of the council. So I think that didn't make sense to the US. although they
Mhm.
themselves also, I think there could be some things
Yeah.
also said about.
Meanwhile, Kenyans who are living in the diaspora are being gripped by panic. Eh? Let me share my screen again with you guys. Can you see? I hope you can. This is in the Standard Digital Post. Panic and anxiety has gripped Kenyans living in the US following Donald Trump's policy to deport undocumented and illegal immigrants. And the reason why this is important to talk about, or even just to highlight, is the fact that um, the environment that we have right now is becoming very insecure job wise. Yeah, there are no jobs, as we can see. Let's not say there are no jobs, but the job opportunities are becoming scarce, not just for Kenya, not just for Kenyans, but also for Americans, as you can see. So there's going to be more competition. And we wonder to ourselves, who are we going to be selling to if we can't sell to Americans, if we can't sell to ourselves? Who can we, who are the biggest market? The biggest market is the local market, is always the biggest market, isn't it? For you, if you're a producer. So the question is if people's buying power, purchasing power is so reduced, markedly reduced, then there's going to be an issue with your products, being able to sell your products or your services. And so, let's just wait and see what happens with aid fatigue. Will have a devastating effect on our economy, but let's not say devastating. It's going to have a big effect, a humongous effect on on the economy globally, global economy. It's going to shake the economy globally, but it's a matter that needs to be debated. It's a matter that needs to be sorted out, and we have 4 years, I guess, to sort it out. So, guys, I want to say I can see Susan wrapping herself up there. It's getting a bit chilly here and getting a bit late too. So we don't want to keep you long. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for watching and for watching our show. We'll continue this discussion. Actually, on Friday, we actually discussed relationships. But Susan, I'll give Susan a chance to complete what she wants to say. And then after that, we're going to close up, and you can join us on Friday when we have our show on relationships. And we talk about we talk about relationships, but we also talk about, a little bit of politics, but mostly about relationships, really, on Fridays. Yeah. So welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you, Tony Africa.
for sure, our landscape is changing, and I think this is a warning to everybody, to all our nations, to be ready and prepared. And the more self-sufficient you are, the better you are. The more you're more resilient to any shocks. Right now, I'm not sure, you know, the resilience and preparedness for this change is not good, I think, for most countries. But I'm sure we'll get through it. At the end of the day, because like the African nations are being compelled to look inward and to look around them for support, it might actually strengthen our nations and strengthen our economic blocks and other things, and our trade routes here nationally. I mean, in Africa, and also we look for different partners. I know we talked about. Um, I know Kenya, for instance, has already started looking at the BRICS nations and was
Mm-hmm.
applying to be a member of that. And I think there are a number of African countries who are there. I think we are a member of the BRIC now, isn't it?
No,
And a
we
number of
applied.
we applied.
Not replied.
Yeah,
We expressed interest. We expressed input, but it was going to be a bit of a conflict of interest, especially because we have our police in Haiti, funded by the US voluntarily.
yeah, yeah.
So I think we would be facing serious tariffs if we join the BRICS nations. But I don't know where we are with that.
Yeah, so we look forward to seeing what's going to happen, but I know we're going to, I mean, look, we need to, this is a lesson for us all to be more resilient.
Yeah, we have to be more resilient, and we need to go back to our cottage industries. Start thinking about what you can create, what you can sell, and let's go back to being creative. We were the first civilization. We can actually be still get our glory back as Africans, especially. Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you on Friday and on Sunday. Have a good evening. Kwaherini. Thank you very much
Bye.
for being here. Bye bye. Okay.